Today, you and I are going to take this old chair and all this junk and turn it into something that you can use to organize all of those gardening tools that you have laying around. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Cindy and I'm with Reinvented Delaware. We love to reinvent and repurpose and upcycle all sorts of home decor and take things that had one use and turn them into something with a whole new use, like this chair. By the way, don't mind my little head cold. You can probably hear it in my voice. Recently, one of my friends contacted me and asked if I was up for a chair upcycling challenge. I said, sure thing. You can see the whole call right here.
Hey, Cindy.
Hey, Diane.
I hope you're having a great day and would be up for a fun challenge.
A challenge? Okay. Tell me about it.
Knowing you, I'm guessing you have an old chair or three hanging out in your workshop.
I have a few. Okay.
How about if we each upcycle a vintage forlorn chair into something completely different without showing each other our projects?
Oh, you know I love vintage farmhouse stuff. I mean, that is just my thing.
I love a good upcycle, but in a more modern style.
This sounds like so much fun. I'm in.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
And I cannot wait to get started.
See you in a bit. Can't wait to see what we come up with.
All right, I'll see you.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to upcycle this chair. Let me show you the supplies that we're using today. I have these galvanized pieces that I found while I was out thrifting, and I'm even going to be using one of these Longaberger baskets. I have a stash of them. Do you remember them from the 90s? I'm using some Dixie Belle products, including the paint and some white lightning cleaner. I'm also using this transfer. I can't wait to show you how I use it. And of course, I need a good solid paintbrush, and Dixie Belle has some great ones. And that doorknob, see that? I can't wait to show you what I'm going to do with that, and some scrap wood. The first step with any project is always to make sure that the piece is clean. So I mixed up a little bit of the white lightning powder in this spray bottle. I spray down the piece and then I wipe it down with a microfiber cloth. Now you can see the rust on that seat. It was from some other item that sat there for way too long. So I grabbed one of these sanding pads, and with the same solution of the TSP white lightning cleaner, I just really scrubbed it and it took all that rust off and it really cleaned that surface perfectly. Then I wiped it down again with my microfiber cloth. I rinsed out the cloth with clear water until it was completely clear and wiped the whole chair down to remove any of the cleaner. I decided to move this project out to my outdoor workshop because I was going to have paint all over and I just didn't want to do that. So I grabbed the paint that I wanted to use. It's called Gravel Road by Dixie Belle, and I grabbed one of my favorite brushes, stirred up the paint, and then I started to paint. Now you're going to see that I've got this chair upside down. This is the best way to paint chairs. First of all, turn them upside down to make sure that you get everything covered, the part that you're not going to see, because you will miss spots if you don't. So I painted the underside of it completely, and then I started to paint the legs. And I have a special technique that I use when I'm painting the legs on spindle legs on a chair like this. One thing to remember when you are painting spindles is don't get too much paint on your paintbrush. You don't want runs, and that's very easy to do. So dab just a little bit of the paint, go over the surface, and keep the paint in a thin layer. To do the spindles, I dab a little bit of paint all over the spindle, just there in that area. And then I take my brush and I flick it back and forth in really quick movements, and the bristles get into all those spindles. Now warning, it is messy because you will have little paint spatters all over the place. That's why I moved to my outdoor workshop. It's a little bit of fun though, because you're making a mess, and that can be a lot of fun, right? Once the first coat is on, I sprayed my paintbrush down with my fine mist spray bottle, and then I put that paintbrush in a Ziploc bag. It's a great way to keep your brush damp and preserved for the second coat, so you don't have to wash the paintbrush 2 times. Now I'm going to try to bleach out this Longaberger basket, and I'll give you a spoiler alert, it did not work. I put a heavy coat of bleach on this, like I've done so many other projects. In fact, I have a video of another basket that I bleached out. I'll link it down below. And it worked out really well, but this one didn't. So stay tuned. I did come up with another solution. I wanted this chair to have a shelf, so I grabbed those white picket pieces from another project, but they just were not going to work out. You could see they were kind of wobbly. So instead, I grabbed the leftover cedar picket that I had from the window boxes that we made for the front of our house. They're going to work out perfectly. Now, I could have done a better job cutting them at an angle to make sure that they fit right and all that, but I just wanted to have a little shelf and I wasn't too worried about how it looked. So I've got this shop vac, it's mounted on the wall. Workspace is way over there, so I have this hose and you can't see the floor right now, but look at this. I can reach all the way. I don't know if you can see me now, but I'm all the way over here and this thing stretches out way beyond my workspace, which is amazing. The best thing about that wall mount shop vac is I don't have that tank all over the place. I had this great big tank for the shop vac that was all over the place. It was always in the way. It was always taking up space. So if you do any kind of work out in a garage workshop or any other kind of workshop, you need a wall mounted workshop. We have it mounted at this end of the garage because this is our big door where we come in and out. And if my husband is cleaning a vehicle like that truck sitting right there, all he has to do is turn on the shop vac and he's ready to go, and it's just a lot easier cleanup. So for my workshop, there's one workbench and there's my other workbench. So that long hose that you just saw, this one right here, will stretch all the way over there. The great thing about it is it doesn't take up all my floor space. Right here is the floor space that I have for my work area, and I don't have to worry about that additional thing in my way, that tank from the shop vac. So here it is, up close. It mounted really easily to the wall. That big round thing, that right there is if you want to use it for a blower. It pops off and it will blow out air. Currently it's got like that filter thing on it, which is nice. It has a holder for all the attachments, and then it has this piece here in the back, and that's where the big long hose will wrap around, so that at the end of the day all I have to do is wrap that hose around that holder at the top and it's put away. I'm going to have this linked below. It's the rigid store and go. I'll link it below because if you're out in a workshop working, you need a really good shop vac, but you need it out of your way, and this is the way to go. Time for the second coat. I sprayed my paintbrush with the fine mist bottle, got it nice and wet, and then put on the paint that thins it out, and it puts the second coat on perfectly.
Hey Cindy, do you have a paintbrush you could spare? I'm in a little bit of a bind.
Hey Diane, did you need a paintbrush? I got one for you right here. Catch.
Thanks, Cindy. Oh, and it's even a Dixie belt. Oh, I can't wait to give this a try. I've heard such great things. Thanks, you're a lifesaver.
Okay, it's time to clean this paintbrush. I've done the second coat, so I'm ready to clean it. And I just want to show you how I clean the brush. First of all, I'm going to rinse it, and then I'm going to use this. This is called Scrubby Soap. It's a product put out by Dixie Belle. It has a glycerin soap on one side, and this one is lime. It comes in orange and lemon also. Then it has this scrubby pad. You've all heard of the Scrub Daddies. Well, that's the same material. So to start off with, you start off with some warm water and you just rinse out the brush as much as you can. Then you just take the wet brush and go over the soap. I like to go over the soap side. And then if you go over that scrubby side, the soap comes up through that, gets into that brush, and then the scrubby part of it scrubs off all that paint. It's really amazing. So then what I'll do is I let it get in there and I let it sit for just a second, and I take that scrubby side and I scrub my own hands. This soap is safe for your hands. You don't have to worry about any chemicals, it's just all natural, it's citrus. It's really good for your skin, and that scrubby part just takes off all the paint. Put it back in its little container and save it for the next time. And then I take the paintbrush, I just work that scrubby soap in there really good, and it loosens all that paint. And then give it a good rinse. Rinse it all out till the water runs clear. You don't want to leave any residue of the soap or the paint in there. I'm going to squeeze out that brush as much as I can, shake a little down. Then the next step, just take your paper towel and fold it up, and then wrap that paintbrush in the paper towel. It'll soak it all up. And what I like to do is I lay it at an angle downward so that the bristles are going down, and I've got the excess paper towel here. The water will just continue to drip, and in just a few hours it'll be dry. Okay, this is what I'm going to do with this transfer, and I'm going to tell you, it kind of gave me a run for my money, but I'm pretty determined and pretty persistent. So I wanted the top of this to look like scrap pieces of wood that were put together. I've seen on Pinterest how they'll take a seat from an old chair and they'll have several slats of wood together, and it just makes a really cool look. Well, I had this transfer and I thought maybe I could make the same look with that. But working around that curve in the back was a bit of a challenge. So you can see there that I used my scissors and I cut downward just so that the paper would form around that curve. And then I kind of pressed it in and pressed a fold in it so I would have a guideline of where to cut that transfer. And it worked out pretty good. You're going to see that it took some finagling, but we got it done. Putting the transfer on was pretty straightforward. I just peeled the backing paper off and I laid it down where I wanted it to go. And by the way, once you stick it to the piece, do not pick it up because it will tear and you'll ruin your transfer. So I just moved along slowly. I used a combination of my fingers and this little tool that comes with the transfers that will, as you rub it on there, it literally transfers onto the piece that you're working on. You lift the clear sheet up slowly. You make sure that you've got it all adhered down. If it's not, you just lay it down again and rub it a little bit more with that tool until all of that transfer is down on the piece. And it's as simple as that. Put on an audiobook and enjoy your time. Now I've got to line up the second edge of this transfer. So this was a little bit of a challenge. I went through each of the sheets. There are 4 sheets inside this tube, and I found the one that matched up perfectly in color. This is like a herringbone design, so I was careful to make sure that it was going to be a continuous look. I figured that out, and then I cut off the excess and I lined it up very carefully after I pulled off that white backing paper. And then I just proceeded to rub on the transfer. The seat on this chair had a crack in it and I did not want to fix it. I kind of wanted to keep that look. I liked it. So I used my X-Acto knife to cut the transfer so that it would just kind of disappear. And then I also used some sandpaper and I roughed around the edge there along the seat to distress it a little bit and then back around that curve. Now that curve, I don't like that line that's showing, and I have a solution for that. All you have to do is grab a little artist brush and the same color of paint and just kind of dab it on, and it will fade the transfer into the paint, and you won't be able to tell where one starts and one ends, and it's just a softer look than a straight line. Your boards were not going to match the gray tones of that chair, so I mixed up about a half and half of the chalk paint and some water, and I did this wash over top of the boards, and it knocked off that orange warm tone perfectly. Remember the basket that would not bleach? Well, I did the same technique with it, and it turned out perfect in my opinion too. I sealed the whole chair with 2 coats of gator hide since this will be in a covered outdoor patio. I grabbed the largest drill bit that I have and I drilled this huge hole in the back of the chair because that doorknob is going to fit right into that hole, nice and snug, and I just can't wait to show you what I do with this doorknob. Let's take a look at this chair that I've turned into a little spot for all of my gardening tools. Now this is an area right in our breezeway. Y'all have seen it before. So you can see here I've added hooks, I've added extra baskets that I found, I have a place for my gardening gloves, and then look there at the top, you can see that longer burger basket hanging off of that doorknob, and inside that basket I have clippers so that when I go out to my cutting garden, I have all my supplies right there. I can grab the basket and I can grab the little clippers and go out and clip my zinnias. I added some hooks on the underside of the chair so that I have a place to hang my favorite shovel and my favorite hand trowel. These are my two favorite hand tools that I use. I used a piece of leather to make a little loop to hang them from. These will be easy to grab and go right out to my garden. I found this wire basket in my stash and it holds those little galvanized pails perfectly. I have one to hold the twine and then I have another one to hold all those little copper plant labels and the marker that comes with it, so it's all together and I know exactly where it is when I'm working out in, let's say, in my herb garden and I want to label all those things. I have all the supplies on hand. Then I found this basket and it was perfect to set on that shelf and I could keep all my gardening gloves together. I have some that are used for gardening and weeding, and then I have some leather gloves for more heavy-duty projects. It also gives me another space to put one of those hand shovels. The seat where we applied that transfer is perfect to hold extra terracotta pots along with those little snips that I like to keep on hand. You can see inside the longer burger basket, this is where I keep the scissors that I use, the little snips that I use for clipping my zinnias to bring them in and make flower arrangements. And then you can see how that basket is hanging on that doorknob. I just think that's the cutest thing. And I love that I was able to knock off some of the orange color of that longer burger basket. Let me know down in the comments, do you remember these longer burger baskets? Were you a fan back in the 90s? I have tons of them and they're all stuffed in a closet for now. I need to find something to do with them. On the other side of the chair, I have the perfect spot to hang all these rakes. And I had to tie some leather straps. I added hooks to the walls so that using those leather loops that I've put on the tools, they can just hang right there and they're ready to grab and go. Now that empty space right there, I think I want to get a little bench or something that I could carry around the yard, like one of those kneeling benches, and that would be a perfect spot. I have to keep my eye open for one. On the other side of the chair, I have more clippers and I have a little handsaw that I can use to do some pruning on branches. And then I also have that watering can. This little spot is going to get a lot of use. I can grab all the tools that I need and head out to my garden anytime I need to get my hands in the dirt. Be sure to pop over to my friend Diane's channel. I'll have it linked below so that you can see what she did with her chair. I cannot wait to see it. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and click that thumbs up and subscribe. We would love you to join our journey. See you next time.